Let's do it.
Hey everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back to New Zealand.
Part 2. In our last video,
We'll stick a link up here.
we had just finished hiking some waterfalls in the rain, and we were on our way to Invercargill, which is a fairly large city at the southern tip of the southern island. We were wet, we were tired, we were hungry, and we were thirsty, so our main objective was to find a place to get some food. We found a local pizza place.
Hell.
Yes, it's a New Zealand pizza chain called Hell. It is a creepy restaurant, but it has very good pizza.
It's really good.
And while
They know how to cook things in hell.
They do know how to cook things in hell. Hot fires. While we were there, Ryan got an email with some not so great news.
Yeah. So we told you before we were booking hotels the day of for that night, and we had done that for Invercargill. And as we got into the town, we got a notice that they had overbooked and our room got canceled, and we had to rebook somewhere else. So sort of in a haze daze, we were
Tired, hungry, waiting for our pizza.
While we're standing outside, I opened up my phone and expanded the search area to other towns in the nearby area, and everything was booked.
Everything was booked.
We found one room in a town called Bluff, about 25 minutes south. And we booked it, and we're like, all right, guess that's...
Here we go. See, I think that's the benefit of having a flexible mindset as a traveler. We could have seen the cancellation of our hotel as a major bummer and a huge inconvenience.
Which it was.
Which it kind of was.
But then we ended up spending time in a town we wouldn't have otherwise. And, I mean, it was a cool little town, so we spent some time the next morning exploring it. So after exploring Bluff a little bit, we headed back towards Invercargill, our stopover point, or our original stopover point. And this town was more of just a stopping point before we headed up towards the mountains.
However, after seeing the Botanical Gardens in Dunedin, we were like, anytime we have an option to go to a botanical garden, we're gonna go check it out. And Invercargill had some botanical gardens called the Queen's Garden. So
fancy.
Yeah, royal. So you gotta go see that. And it was spectacular.
Really cool. We spent a good couple of hours there.
And they had a zoo with wallabies. So after we walked around in the gardens for quite a few hours, we decided we needed to get cracking and hit the road, but not before we stopped at our favorite grocery store, Peck and Save.
Pick and save.
To stock up on supplies, namely kiwis and...
Kiwi fruit.
Sorry.
You get weird looks in New Zealand if you say
do.
kiwis. You're eating
Kiwi
a person?
fruit. Yeah. Then we headed towards Te Anau.
That drive was when we first started to see like real New Zealand mountains. Aside from...
Very kind of like California wine country meets Switzerland.
Yeah, like a lot of flat fields for grazing sheep, and then just mountains that shoot up out of it.
Gorgeous.
And then on our way, before we got to Te Anau, we stopped at Fraser's Beach, which was like the first mountain lake.
It was a gorgeous lake. And it was a much needed stop because
It was a long drive.
it was a long drive and I needed to stretch my legs. I took my shoes off and I waded around in the water while Ryan flew his quadcopter.
And then we were off to our overnight stay, a hostel on the shores of the lake up at Te Anau. And most of the time when you think of hostels, you think like dirty,
Oh yeah, that's what I've never been
bunk
to
beds,
one.
kind of dark and dingy.
I've
This
never
one-
been to a hostel in Europe, but that's what I always picture.
Yeah, that's kind of the image you have, which honestly, a lot of them aren't that way, but we opted for a room with a bath because,
An ensuite.
$65.
$65 and we get our own room and we don't have to share a bunk bed with someone.
And the great thing about it being a hostel is they had a gigantic kitchen facility.
Like an industrial shared kitchen with these long refrigerators with glass fronts, and then everybody just put their food in there.
It was great. And so we made lunch and went and sat out lakefront picnic table on their front lawn.
Kiwis and sandwiches
Yep.
on fresh baked rolls.
Yep. And there were helicopters taking off from a pier not too far away. And so we went and strolled down the road, and it was a really fantastic stopover place.
It was. The reason why we were there is because it's the closest town to Milford Sound.
Yes, or at least I think that is the closest.
I think so too.
I was gonna say the closest major place where you could find a hotel, but I don't think there's much else. It's like that town, the road kind of comes up and curves out, and it's one way in and out of Milford Sound. Mm-hmm. And that was our next place.
The next morning we woke up to views of rainbows.
Oh yeah, it rained overnight.
Yeah, it rained overnight and there were rainbows the next morning when we woke up, and I was looking out of our window at the view. So we packed up, went down to the shared kitchen, made our breakfast. Still rainbows over the lake as we headed kind of early, maybe a little earlier than we needed to arrive in Milford Sound for our overnight cruise.
We didn't know what the conditions of the road up there were because they said there could be snow, and it had rained that night. So we're like, we want plenty of time. And when we got up to the highest point, sort of the pass, there's this really long tunnel cut through the mountain. That was really neat.
So long.
And there was snow up there and avalanche warnings everywhere.
And it was,
There was a lot of
foggy
snow. Yeah.
and waterfalls everywhere.
And this is a big tourist destination, and the road twisting into Milford Sound on the other side of the tunnel has a lot of sections that are blind corners with one lane, and they have like 40-foot buses that go through there. So it was kind of like anybody coming? And then you go.
Oh, do you remember that because the tunnel is a one-way tunnel, you have to wait on either side, and then there's lights that say, okay, now it's this side goes through, now this side goes through. And on either end of the tunnel at the stopping point, there are these, wait for it, Alpine Parrots called Kias that are kind of rare now. In fact, there's a website. If you spot one, you need to go to the website and report it, where you saw it, if you saw maybe a tag on it. And they hang out there looking for handouts.
Waiting for people to feed them while they're waiting for the tunnel.
And they're troublemakers. We saw one in a car park hop in through the open door of somebody's caravan or, RV. and just walk in like he owned it, which was hilarious. And apparently they like to pick the rubber off of windshield wipers and off the ceiling around windows. I'm glad we got there early though, because we checked in at the terminal a little bit early and discovered that you are only allowed one overnight bag on the boat. We took turns standing over the trunk in the car park packing provisions into our little backpacking backpacks. I think Ryan pretty much filled his bag with photography equipment, and I was putting all of his toiletries and a pair of underwear and a pair of socks in my bag for him. So that worked out for us.
And then we spent the rest of the time walking around, taking little trails and taking pictures of the area, because it is really cool back there. In fact, that's the place where they filmed the most recent Mission Impossible movie. The very beginning is shot there.
Yeah.
Where we were standing.
That's right.
And
then it was time for all aboard.
Get on the boat. Then we went sailing. So one of the really interesting things about the Sound is that the canyon walls are basically mountains, and it goes down hundreds and hundreds of feet, sometimes thousands of feet underneath the boat. And so Milford Sound, there are these waterfalls that shoot off these cliffs right into the water. So our boat captain took the boat and shoved the bow of the boat right under the waterfalls.
Right under the waterfall.
And we were in the wheelhouse one of the times he did that, and he was like, no, look, he had his sonar on. He was like, we have 700 feet of water below us.
Crazy.
And the nose of the boat could have literally touched the wall of the mountain, and he would have had 700 feet of water underneath him. So we finally got on the boat and took off and did the regular cruise ship things, like find your muster station, this is where you go if the ship sinks, and find your cabin, and then have dinner where you stuff yourself.
Stuff yourself at the buffet.
But we did get a chance to go around the bay a little bit and take some pictures.
We were only cruising for about 15 minutes.
It wasn't long before we went to our mooring point.
Maybe half an hour before we got to our mooring point for the night.
But then we got to go on kayaks as the sun went down, and it was fun. Didn't take cameras on that.
No, the kayaks were a little wobbly, but we did spot some penguins.
Yeah, we saw some penguins.
Mm-hmm. It was a nice way to spend the evening.
Yeah. So we're gonna leave this one here.
In our next video, we will show you the otherworldly, strange, beautiful place that is Milford Sound. It's Alaska meets Jurassic Park meets Hawaii meets an alien planet.
So we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like this video, let us know what you think in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss out on more of our weird things we do.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. All right, see ya.
Bye. We last left you with the ominous You need to wash that?
Yeah.